Historical events you didn't realize famous figures lived through. Orville Wright was alive when the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Japan. Orville Wright, co-inventor of the airplane, died in 1948, just years after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings that killed hundreds of thousands. He and his brother, Wilbur Wright, had once hoped flight might prevent war, but Orville later reflected on how aviation was ultimately transformed into a powerful instrument of destruction rather than peace. Pablo Picasso lived long enough to play Pong. Pablo Picasso, 1881 to 1973, was still alive and well, and actively painting, in November 1972, meaning he could have theoretically played a few rounds of Pong, which was released by Atari at the end of the month. Picasso died in April 1973, giving him several months to visit the U.S. and blow through a roll of quarters at a local arcade before his death. Buffalo Bill Cody was alive when Paris was bombed by German Zeppelins. Buffalo Bill, the legendary Wild West performer, lived until 1917, meaning he was still alive during much of the First World War. By that time, the world had changed dramatically from the frontier era he embodied. Industrial warfare, including German Zeppelin raids over cities like Paris, marked a new kind of global conflict. It's a striking contrast between his Old West image and the modern mechanized world emerging as his life came to an end. Shakespeare was still alive when the British started colonizing the Americas. William Shakespeare, 1564 to 1616, was still on this mortal coil when the British began to colonize Jamestown, 1607, Newfoundland, 1610, and St. George's in Bermuda, 1612. Stories about the attempts to colonize Jamestown and Bermuda, in fact, that scholars believe they likely inspired Shakespeare when he was writing The Tempest. In fact, it's difficult to imagine the play we know without them. Charlie Chaplin lived long enough to see Star Wars. Famous silent film star Charlie Chaplin, 1889 to 1977, lived just long enough, in theory, to have caught a showing of Star Wars, which debuted in the US on May 25, 1977. And he would have had several months to make this happen. Chaplin died at the ripe old age of 88 on Christmas Day in 1977. George Burns lived long enough to use AOL. Famous cigar-chomping comedian and actor George Burns, 1896 to 1996, could have gone online, if he wanted to, that is. America Online, AOL, began offering a user-friendly, Windows-compatible graphical browser in 1993, a few years before his death, which allowed even nearsighted nonagenarians to surf the web. He might have even been startled and annoyed by the "You've Got Mail" sign-in announcement.